Hi, welcome to the Animated Shorts Q&A for the Florida Film Festival. My name is Tim Anderson. I'm the program coordinator, and this program is sponsored by Lure Design, so big shout out to those guys. I really want to welcome the filmmakers that have made some projects that we just got a chance to watch, and let me start with Joe Cappa. Joe, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your film.
Hi, I'm Joe, director and animator of Ghost Dogs. Yeah, I'm really excited to be playing at Florida. I'm excited to be there to watch it on the big screen. This will be my first time to do that. Awesome. But yeah, passion project, took me 2 years to make.
Fantastic. Good. I got to give you a shout out for what is clearly your Ugandan movie style Rambo 2 poster.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a Leonardo.
I love it.
Yeah.
Carla and Elizabeth, hi, welcome back.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You go.
Oh, okay. Thanks for having us back. We have a short film here called Apotheke, and we both pronounce it a little differently, I think. But
and my goal was to make you say the name of your movie so that I wouldn't screw it up.
Yeah. Well, so our film, it kind of has to do with the last film that we had at Florida by Lottie Reiniger. About Lottie Reiniger, and this film isn't actually based on a Lottie Reiniger film, but we're making a feature of a Lottie feature, and we came across this footage that we played with to make this film. So yeah, we're just excited to be back here and doing more work about female animators and stuff like that. So yeah.
Awesome. Mitch, hi, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Mitch McGlocklin. My film is Forever. It's the one with all the little dots everywhere. And I made it with an experimental technique using LiDAR to capture those spaces and those people. And then came in and animated it with 3D software. And so I hope you liked it, because It was a complete experiment, and I think it worked.
Yeah, we're obsessed with it, actually. I'm going to have a lot of questions.
I always kind of get the same question. Yeah, how'd you make it? But I'm happy to answer.
Jack, welcome back to the festival, man.
Thanks for having me back. I'm excited.
You know that we have to tell people not to bring their children to programs that you play.
I think they learn a thing or two, but that's
So, well, tell us what movie you've got here.
Well, my movie is called Brontosaurus. I wrote and directed and animated it, and it's just another sad cartoon about my sad life.
Well, I appreciate that you use this as your therapy. So.
No, I'm told therapy works.
Dylan, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Yeah, my name is Dylan Chase. I'm the writer and director of Camp Heebie Jeebie. And that was also a passion project. It's a movie about a bunch of Girl Scouts who start telling each other stories, and the stories turn out to be a little more real than they thought they were originally. Yeah,
this is another one where we were just like, oh man, we have to play this. There was actually a big debate about playing this at midnight or playing it at competition.
Oh, cool.
And obviously, it's the quality on it's spectacular, but we were just like, well, it's not really scary, like it's adorable. So I'm hoping I'm saying Meryem correctly. Okay, Meryem, welcome.
Hi, thank you. So I wrote and directed and animated the short film Bare Bones, which is a surreal animation about who we are as human beings and who we would be if we were all the same.
Awesome. Well, this is obviously never a slight on anybody's shorts, because when we go into final selections meeting for animation, it's a war. Everybody's passionate about it, and we've just freaking love this festival. But Meryem's short, Bare Bones, is the one I walked into the room and threw down like a gauntlet and was like, under no circumstances will I leave this room until this film is playing in this festival. So, and everybody's like, they don't want to fight with me a lot. I'm really irritated. So I want to pose a couple of questions out sort of individually about it, and then open up the kind of field to allow you guys to talk to each other as well. So I do want to pose the first question to Mitch about forever, because when we put together an animated shorts program, one of the biggest things that we contend with is representing what we think are really great stories and really interesting things that we haven't seen before. And that's hard to do because there's so many techniques in animation that can be accomplished. You've done something that literally I've never seen anything like it before. And I'm aware of what LiDAR is, but I think it's the coupling of the animation technique with the way that this voiceover narration tells this really twisted but kind of strangely uplifting story. So I guess mostly I want to know the inspiration behind not only using this style, but also in the story that's being told in it, because the film could just be style, but it's not. The story is driving it.
Well, thank you for those kind words. How did it come out? That really happened to me. That's all just really my thoughts on what really happened to me. It was 3 years ago. My parents tried to get a life insurance policy on me because they co-signed on my loans, and grad school is extremely expensive. And so they said, if you die, we're on the hook for these loans. And so we went through the process of doing that, and I got denied. And it was a total shock to all of us because I was pretty young.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, so then I was reading a lot about AI taking over people's jobs, and AI taking over that job specifically, an insurance underwriter. And so I started to think, wow, this AI really looked at my life and was like, thought I was going to die. And it really affected me. And I think it was the first time I really confronted my mortality, because I was only 27. And so it was weighing on my mind, and I was in grad school and I had to make a thesis project. And I was going to make like a interactive VR installation about AI. But every time I would tell my classmates or my mentors about the project, and they would say, well, where'd you get that inspiration? And I would tell them that story.
Yeah.
Oh, this happened to me. And everybody was so drawn to the story that was going to inspire the VR piece. And then I decided, okay, I just have to make the inspiration the actual thing. So I ditched the VR and I decided to do a film.
Yeah, we program an experimental block here as well. And, sometimes we weigh this, whether or not a film is experimental or if the narrative is there, but the technique is experimental. And this was such a natural fit to actually move to the competition for us, just because we felt like it deserved to be kind of vying for the grand jury award. But using LiDAR is really, it's just an odd and unique choice. So
yeah, that came out from, I was doing photogrammetry at the time, and really playing with that, which is, if you don't know, it's taking like thousands of pictures of a space or an object and then running it through the software that creates a 3D object of it. That's photoreal, but there's an intermediate step where it's a point cloud. And so I got really into that aesthetic, point clouds, because it was like a ghost of an object. You can see it, but you can see through it, and you can see all the layers.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, so I was going to use photogrammetry for the project, and that wasn't quite working because it looked too real. It was too detailed. And then I came across this LiDAR company that made this new thing for self-driving cars, and I was like, I approached them with the idea, and I said, I have no money. I'm a student. And they said, well, no one's really used our hardware to make art, so we'll loan you one for a while.
Nice.
So yeah, and there's a big learning curve because it's really made for like engineers. It's made for self-driving cars. Yeah. So I had to figure out like how to run the software, collect the data, manipulate the data. But yeah, I'm really happy with the way it turned out.
Very cool. So I want to go over to Carla and Elizabeth real quick. And so the film is inspired by Lottie Reiniger, but are you saying, and this is something I've been meaning to, this is something I want to ask you myself because I was unclear. Is it found footage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's no, with some other layers and stuff on top. But
with modification.
Yeah. The basis is found footage. Yeah.
Okay. Well, where did you uncover it?
It's on an old DVD of some of Lottie's work, and it was misattributed to her.
Yeah.
And then they had to reissue some information that they actually don't know who made it originally.
Unknown.
But they think it was made in the 20s, late
Yeah.
20s.
So around the same time as Reiniger's stuff was being made.
Yeah, of her early stuff. Yeah, exactly.
And Carly, you did the score for it.
Yeah, you know, it was kind of like I was working on an album at the time, and but then I came across this footage because I was recording with this orchestra here, this pandemic orchestra. Everyone's recording in separate parts of the world.
There should be thousands of albums being released weekly. Like,
Yeah, right. Everybody's making their album this year and not being in the same room at all. So, so I just it just melded together. There was like this music floating around, and then there was this movie, all of Lottie's work, and then there was just this moment where we're like, we should put something together and really focus on this as a piece.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a short that really vexed me the more I watched it, because obviously it's based on shadow puppetry, but the movement is seemingly too fluid. So I can see that, where the manipulation would occur. And that's just kind of the thing that's been peeling into my brain about how much of this was did you find, or what you guys do to it, because it's a unique way of kind of looking at shadow puppetry where it's feels 100% like I'm watching silent film, but it's just a little too, I don't know what to say, good, but it's just, it doesn't have any of that, that actual manual manipulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure that's live action kind of silhouette dancers.
Yeah.
Imposed on top of an animated.
Okay.
background.
Okay, that makes sense.
I mean, that definitely makes sense for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me ask Jack. So Jack, Mitch just talked a little bit about, kind of mining his own life, and that is your wheelhouse. So I guess my question to you is, you continue to find the inspiration to do these movies. And I mean, I watched, I think 3 or 4 movies you made this year. And I mean, I'm continuously impressed by the caliber of the stuff that you put out. And then I'm partially concerned for your well-being. So I just want to know, what you're working on right now. And maybe also talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we didn't get into Florida this year, not because we didn't love it, because we freaking loved it all. It's just because we literally can't program a sidebar of just amazing movies.
Thanks. Yeah, it's weird when you're competing with yourself.
Yeah.
What else did I have? So I had a short called Revelations that was in Slam Dance, and that's another animated one. The animation is different than the animation that I have here.
Yeah.
And then I have, I guess, the most experimental thing I've done. It's all archival footage, called Amanda. It's a sort of angry, I don't know if you call it a critique of violence and sex in movies and television. That's gotten in nowhere. I don't think it ever will.
I think people are terrified at the amount of footage you're using in it.
Yeah, and also it kind of goes after everyone. I have that one, and then also Brontosaurus, which I made actually 2 years ago. It's always oh fuck, it's August. All right, I got to get something for Sundance, and then I always make something that's completely unprogrammable. And it's why do I? But you guys took a chance on it, so thank you. Actually, I guess that's a good lead into Brontosaurus.
Yeah.
It does have the sort of Me Too backdrop. It sort of was made during the height of the Me Too movement. And when I made it, I guess last year or 2 years ago, I can't remember. I feel like I knew it was going to be a little bit touchy for some people, or it was going to maybe make people a little uneasy. And I kind of hoped that it would age well, and that when people could kind of take a step back, they could see this and sort of be like, oh yeah, that was a crazy time. And everyone, I mean, it's still happening, but I mean, when it first, boom. And so many filmmakers, especially men, were just nervous. And how do I navigate these waters? What is a professional working dynamic, or in a romantic relationship? What are the power dynamics? Am I doing something wrong? Do I have to second guess every step I make? And so I just wanted to sort of explore that territory through a relationship between two young people that is fairly pure, but it's being scrutinized under this microscope.
Yeah.
That was like the entry point into it. Actually, that's only a sliver of the short, but it's sort of like was an interesting entry point to talk about the things I really like to talk about.
I think it works really well about, Jack, the thing that works really well about most all of your shorts, that maybe Amanda's a little different, because Amanda's intense, man, is that you're self-deprecating to yourself, or the character of you that exists inside of the movies as well. But I think that disarms the audience a lot in the films, so that then you get to hammer home and needle on them a little bit with some like kind of, more heavy duty stuff. And I think back to stuff like Serenity and things like that. People look at Serenity and they kind of laugh a little bit at it, but everything that's going on in Serenity is intense, like very intense. So, yeah. But yeah, thanks for coming in and joining us on that. I feel like I'm saving Dylan and Joe last, but I am on purpose, because you guys kind of represent the horror block. So I want to ask Meryem a little bit about Bare Bones. This movie for us works incredibly well, because obviously we just went through 2020 and we've spent a lot of time considering probability, what the end of the world might actually look like. And this film has a kind of like really unique, and again, also very much almost experimental take on this idea of not only this group of characters in this movie that are like drones going through life, but it speaks to a lot of like everybody's kind of day-to-day cycle of, we get up, maybe we zoom in and we eat some lunch, and then we maybe clean the bathroom, and then we were going to bed. It's like, I know there's no way you made this movie like, 2 weeks into the pandemic, because it's obviously an incredible amount of CGI. So I guess I want to know when you thought about this movie, conceptualized it, and then how it felt to sort of like bring it out to the world in the middle of all this bullshit.
Yeah, I actually started doing everything much before the pandemic. And then when it happened, I didn't want to continue it, to be honest. I was honestly scared, because my characters were also wearing masks. They were also having this very repetitive way of life.
Yeah.
They were devoid of all emotions, and having the pandemic and seeing actual people going out with masks, it was super scary. But then there was a pandemic, so I was bored. I couldn't do anything else. And I thought that was a good excuse for me to put all the observations that I had about humans in general, about even myself, just to write them down and to give my characters all these observations, and then to see what happens.
Yeah, it's a movie that I want to ask you a million questions about, but I don't actually want you to explain anything. So, is there anything you specifically want to say about the movie? From you to the audience now that they've watched it, because again, I feel like it's a movie that you bring so much of whatever's going on inside of your own cycle to, that like I don't want to be just projecting my own opinions.
That's a hard question. I don't really want to say anything about the movie, because when I did it, I wanted to show that there are things that are happening. For example, that I don't have any example, that like that we also sacrifice each other if we need resources,
yeah.
or that we also have this beliefs and we give moral values to things that do not depend on us, and that we also have all these kinds of things already today. But I didn't want to say this is good or this is bad. It's not really a critique. It's just a way to say, let's think about it and let's question what it is, and that's it.
And I think that's what the movie does so well, is that I think it forces you to just sort of like start to internalize like everything that's happening in the movie. I blew me away. It's fantastic. So, thank you for making it. I'm really excited. I can't wait to hear I do feel like it's for sure people are going to love it or hate it. Like I'm really looking kind of forward to like the absolute people walking out of the theater like, why? Those are always the best movies. Like you have to get a reaction.
So it's your bet to be the most polarizing film in the animation program?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, for sure. unless somebody brings like a 6-year-old to watch Brontosaurus, because I think it's got a cute dinosaur. So Dylan, you open the program. Joe, you close the program. And that's on purpose. We do think about this when we build these programs out. Both of them are sort of ostensibly family-esque movies that are really not. What I love about Heebie Jeebie is how disarming it is. We obviously we're in Florida. Bringing School of Art and Design here is a pretty big feeder for Pixar, just like CalArts is. And I know you guys are FSU grads for the most part. I don't know. Did you go to FSU, Dylan?
I did, yeah.
So, and you're Girl Scouts to sing it and enter the Newport Richie Girl Scout troop. So what you did is you kind of took that style of CGI that I think that most of the world now kind of thinks of animation as. Like, I feel like we've gone so far away from hand-drawn animation that most of the people, certainly most younger people, my daughter's age and lower, all think of animation as like Toy Story.
Yes.
But you kind of taken that general design construct and you made a really campy horror film that's super identifiable, because I think everybody sat out by the fire, even in Florida, it's 185 degrees, and told creepy stories. So I guess this is an inspiration question for me. It's sort of like, you obviously weren't a Girl Scout. So, I mean, you might have been. I'm not here to judge.
No, I was not. I have 3 sisters and a mom, and so I have been to many Girl Scout events throughout my life, and that was it. That was my whole family growing up, was mom and 3 sisters, and so I never had to charge the remote for whatever we were watching or wherever we were going, and I actually loved it. We were always playing Phantom of the Opera in the car, or Wicked or something, and I was all there for it. So yeah, it was mostly inspired by my sisters, and exactly what you said. I'm so glad you said that about, like, we use this not all like this look of CG intentionally because it's so fun and playful, but I wanted to kind of draw people in with that and then tilt it so it's like, you've seen this before, right? And you're like, yeah, and then it's like, no, you haven't. So that was the idea with that. And all of the at the time I was just kind of exhausted a little bit by the heroes that I was seeing in a lot of blockbuster movies and a lot of the big movies, and I was like, there are different heroes that need to have voices, and I went to an event with my sister, and it was a bridging ceremony. She was she was going from a brownie to she was getting her like green vest.
Yeah, you get the green.
And, yes, and it was in this podunk. I won't give you any specifics because I don't want to make fun of the Veterans Association, but that it was being held at. But it was just so dirty. There were cigarette butts everywhere, and I was like, this place is disgusting. But she had no idea that it was disgusting. All she saw was she was getting this new vest. She was graduating, and she was so proud. I don't think I've ever seen her more proud. And that was the inspiration for this movie, was this idea that she couldn't see the gross around her. All she saw was this like beaming light emanating from her and from her friends.
That's like the best story, man. That's so good.
It made me so emotional. I spent 4 years on a movie about it. So that was the idea.
So they say you have to love your story, because by the end of it, you're sick of it. So
yes,
you really have to love
especially in animation, as we all know, it's you gotta love it from frame one, and because you're gonna be living with it for a very long time. So yeah, that was where it came from. Was her.
So Joe, I saw the Ghost Dogs during Fantastic Fest and immediately told everyone I just watched The Puppy Shining, which is definitely what I'm still calling it to like kind of everybody without setting up any. I'm trying to set too many expectations with it, but Puppy Shining is pretty much what we're calling it. But I love the idea of doing a ghost story about dogs, where the dog goes to his forever home, and it's been other dogs' forever homes. And I have pets. I have like way too many cats for like one man, like really like too many cats and just cats everywhere. And it's just like, I've had cats pass away, and it's like, oh, like, what if my house is haunted? Because I remember one of the things that happened, and this is like a weird aside, but it's really got a point in your movie, which is that I remember right after my first cat ever passed away, I swear I would see her like out of the corner of my eye, like at the edge of the bed, like she was going to jump up, and then I would like turn around real quick. And obviously I wasn't, I mean, theoretically, but, it's just like, I love this idea of telling the story from the dog's perspective, where he is kind of haunted by all the dogs that came before him that were loved. None of the dogs appear to have died tragically. Maybe there's a secret you can tell us in there, but I just want to hear a little bit about this movie from a concept standpoint as well.
Yeah, I mean, I had always done these paintings of these dogs with like human hands and feet, just because I thought they looked interesting. And then I got a Wacom tablet, and I was like, okay, now I can do some actual like cell animation. And they were like the first characters I drew and put them in a house. And I was like, it should definitely be raining outside. And then just the whole vibe just kind of spoke to me, and I was like, all right, so let's make the story about these ghost dogs. And then, I mean, yeah, just the biggest horror trope is a family's pet just kind of like seeing something that the family can't see. It's barking. And I was like, how has there not been a movie about like a dog that sees other ghost dogs? And I was just like, this is $1 million idea. I have to do it. And like Ellen was saying, it's just like, you have to like love this idea. And I was like, I don't know. I don't have like a lot of big ideas that come to me, just like short, funny things that I could put on Instagram and just get that gratification within a couple of days. So yeah, I just felt like I had to make this because I thought somebody else was going to make it. And so I had to make it the way I wanted to, and with my sense of humor and all that sort of stuff.
I think that's the thing about the movie. When we talk about it being funny. Like, it's like really like both like yours and Dylan's movie they have this underlying kind of like sweetness to them.
Yeah, I think Dylan said it best, because like that's the biggest joke that I'm kind of setting up, or at least the scare tactic is to make it seem kind of inviting and something you've seen before.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, how far is the director going to push this? Like, how creepy is it going to get? And so you just kind of have to watch. That's the idea.
Yeah, this was one where I brought in, like I said, I saw it before. I reached out and said, hey, I'd like the rest of the team members to take a look at this film, because, it's not a one-man show or a two-man show with me and Matthew making all of these decisions. Like, everybody's very equal in there. And so, but this was the one where I was literally kind of counting like the seconds from the time I assigned it to them to the first person texting me back. And just being like, are you going to be on board with this ride? Because again, it's a movie that kind of almost could play anywhere. I mean, I know Peter put it into Fantastic Fest, and for the most part, Fantastic Fest does not play nice, sweet, funny movies. They've got some edge to them. They've got some punch. And, but this just felt like, again, a perfect competition movie.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, the dog masturbation thing, it just seems to be a sticking point for a lot of people. Which is good. I mean,
that's just like a Tuesday around here.
I've been hit up by like children's film festivals,
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
I mean, it's so children friendly except for this one scene. Whatever.
Oh, that's fun. Well, I would love to do this now, is open it up to all of you guys, and you can reach out, talk to each other a little bit about your own films. If one of you has a question to pose another one, just feel free to speak up. I promise we'll keep it reasonably less than anarchy. But yeah, I'd like to do 10 minutes or so, let you guys talk to each other before we wrap up. Anybody want to go first? Anybody brave?
Yeah, I have a question for Meryem. If that's okay.
Yeah.
Don't
wait for my permission.
Yeah. Your film is really, first of all, great. So thank you for bringing it to my eyeballs. But it was, there's this haunting chill to the whole thing. So it makes me kind of feel cold just with what you're talking about. But at the same time, because you use a lot of warm colors and this drone under it kind of has this warmth to it, you have this really weird juxtaposition of like the story is almost cold, but the visuals are really warm, and I think that's what kept me really interested the whole time. And I just wanted to know if that was intentional from you, or what that says about the story for you.
Well, first of all, thank you. And yes, the colors were very intentional because at the very beginning, I was thinking of doing a film for children.
Whoa.
So that failed.
Kids.
Like,
Yeah. What I tried to do was to talk to the very deep, innocent child in every person. I mean, the inner person that's inside of us. And I thought of using color, and also I have a background in architecture, so I tried to use all this creating spaces and playing with the textures and with the reflective materials to always ask these questions, and to contrast with the heaviness of the voices.
I can see that architecture background.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It makes so much sense.
I have a quick follow-up for Meryem, which is about the narrative of Bare Bones. Was the film always going to be narrated by a cockroach, or is that something that came up later in the script stage?
That came up in the middle when I was sitting at my desk and I saw a cockroach, and I knew that I needed an object that did not depend on us, and I needed something that creates a ritual for human beings that doesn't make sense, but we have it anyway. And that moment that I saw the cockroach, I just saw. So yes, that's it. That's my narrator.
It sounds like you also needed a broom or a shoe or something to.
Yeah, and an exterminator.
Yes.
There's really nothing I hate more than cockroaches. There's no other bug I won't pick up and shuffle out of my own house. Like spider, it's fine. Cockroach, I throw things at.
Silverfish.
Hey, Mitch. So when you set up those scenes, I'm guessing it's just basically like one camera. I don't know if it's called a camera. How did you decide to like get the positioning of the camera in the shot? Like, how did you want to frame the composition that way?
Oh, a lot of trial and error. Just, I think I first, when I was playing with it, that scene where I'm rotating around on the couch, I like posted it on Instagram, and I'm crowdsourcing my self-esteem, and like everybody was like super into that. Like, hey, like how'd you do that? That's really interesting. And so then I knew that the camera always had to be like somehow moving. And I was trying to think about like the AI watching, and okay, the AI like omniscient, always around, creeping on us. So yeah, when I shoot it, the camera's in one location, but then digitally, a virtual camera can fly through the room because it's capturing everything.
The last shot, did you stick it on a drone? Is that how that worked?
Oh no! So like that's all a virtual camera.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, being that big dark circle that you see a lot, there's like a limitation on the LiDAR where it can only see past like 2 meters beyond itself. And so wherever you see that big dark circle, that's where the literal camera was.
Oh, that's interesting.
Or something?
It was.
I thought it was moving, but maybe
it was. I put it onto a bike seat and had my friend push the bike, and I just walked behind it. Yeah.
You MacGyvered it.
Yeah, it really was like a very. I made the film for like $100. There was nothing expensive going on. Yeah, a lot of MacGyver.
You know, Mitch, I had never heard of the concept of LiDAR or anything, but having seen your film, it actually came up in one of the later shows in WandaVision. I think the military was talking about using LiDAR, and I knew exactly what they were talking about. So I felt, thank you. It was I learned something.
It's kind of making its way into like, the more general. Now that iPhones have LiDAR now, so that's how we're going to see it really disseminate. Thanks to Apple.
Mitch, you had this awesome quote earlier about like your images looking like ghosts of people, and I think that it so perfectly fits the theme of your movie. I'm curious if like did the idea and the visual style come together at the same time, or did you think, oh, you know what would be a perfect story for this, for LiDAR, or like how did that, like which came first, I guess, or maybe they came together?
They kind of came together. I just really fell in love with the aesthetic, and I've always kind of had a problem, like my earlier work. I'm much more like a visual person, experimenting with visuals, and I'm more in like the tech side of things. And I would always like, come up with visuals first, and then try and jam a story into it, and it never quite worked. And so this one, the story, I mean, I wouldn't call myself lucky for this happening to me. It wasn't like a real positive thing, but hey, I'm lucky that it happened to me, because it's like, at the same time I was experimenting with LiDAR, this thing came up as like a story. I mean, it was something that happened to me 2 years prior to making the movie, but it's like, hey, I was thinking about it a lot at the time. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I'd love to do like one more question maybe from you guys before we wrap up. So anybody else want to jump in on something?
Joe, didn't you say this is your first animated film?
Yeah, I mean, in that style, to do hand-drawn stuff, yeah.
Are you gonna keep doing it?
Yeah, I think it's really rewarding. I mean, yeah, from the very beginning, I was just teaching myself, and I'm like, I feel like I'm more competent now to take on other projects.
This film's had an incredible programming run already, so congratulations for this being your first film. Everybody else on the call hates you now, like a little bit.
Yeah, I have like a Sundance mug, and I was thinking about drinking out of it during this thing. But
well, I want to thank you guys all for joining us. I really appreciate it. You guys in the audience that have watched through this, make sure to remember to vote for these. You're picking an Audience Choice Award for Best Short, and one of these guys could absolutely be it. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.